I believe I've met all of you, but I'm so looking forward to welcoming you here in person and your daughters here in person. We had our seniors here today painting their senior parking spots, and again, it brings such joy to me, and I know to everyone here. So welcome and thank you. As Dean mentioned, we'll talk about tonight our plans, our general plans for reopening. In this presentation, there's a lot of information. We won't be going through all of that tonight, but the presentation, the PowerPoint slide will be sent to you by email and will also be available on the website. So not to be concerned if I don't read each one of those, or you don't have a chance to read each, kind of each item. This document is, the result of a lot of work, a lot of thought, a lot of consideration, and so there is a lot in that. The one thing I wanted to start with tonight, certainly for our returning families who are aware of this, but also for our new families who may not be aware, each year we start our year and we choose a value, a core value that is kind of a driving force for that year, for the whole community, to kind of focus on that particular core value and how it impacts us personally, and then also how it impacts our community, and it becomes a theme or focus for the year. In the past, we've focused on resilience and integrity, and last year, courage. Who knew that courage would have been such an apt and an appropriate value for last year, especially as we came into the winter months. And this year, we have chosen the core value of respect, and it felt very easy to land on this. This was after, we had a lot of conversation about the different values and why we might want to choose one over another, but we kept coming back to respect and words similar to that. And I think really, given what is happening in our world, it was something that kind of drew us to that the importance of, from an external perspective, knowing that we all have differences in opinions, in religion, in politics, and in so many other ways. But even amid that, there's absolutely no reason why we can't have the discussions and understanding and have respect through all that, to support and say there are differences of opinion, and we have to value that. In diversity, in so many ways. So we have chosen the value of respect. And I think as I think about this evening and talking about the protocols and thinking about how we all come back together, I think having respect as an underlying value and guiding principle is so important. And it's not only respect for others, which is so critical, respect for others' health and where they are, and how say this virus has affected them in their families, and how that's maybe influencing their decision making, but also respect for ourselves and our own health and well-being. Again, it's so important to both internally and externally. And I really started from a place of that as I've been involved with putting together these protocols and having these discussions. So and then one other thing I guess I just want to mention is a word of thanks to the many people who have been involved in putting all of this together, in their research, in their discussions, in all of the work that has gone into, as you can imagine, trying to figure out what is the best way. Know that in all of those discussions, first and foremost was the health and safety and well-being of our students, of our faculty, our staff, and our families. So that was the driving, certainly that was something that motivated us each and every day to be thoughtful in everything we were doing. And second, the second kind of guiding principle for us around this was the emotional and health and support of our students educationally. And I truly believe welcomed our faculty back this week, and it has been such a joy to have them back with us. And many of them, like many of our students and families, have not been on this campus for 6 months. And so this has been hard. This has been a change, and this has been different. But one of the things that we talked about in our kind of opening sessions was around how our students need us now more than ever. And I truly believe that as a school, as a caring community, an educational community, that is what we're here to do. And we want to do that, as I mentioned, in a safe, and keep everyone safe in that, but also to support them through these times that we are in right now. And to know that educationally, we are here for them, and they will be great. Not just okay. We are all about thriving, not just surviving. And that's what we are going to do. So with that, Dean, I'll ask you if you could maybe put the video, the presentation up, and we'll start going through. Again, if you have questions, as Dean mentioned, please put them in the Q&A. We'll reserve those till the end, just so we can kind of move through the presentation, and then we will get to as many questions as we can this evening. So, great. So maybe you don't remember what the building looks like, but here, that is the Academy of Penguin Hall, and here waiting for all of you to join us. So if you remember nothing from this evening, and this is students and parents and anyone else who is joining us this evening, there are 5 things to remember. And if we can do that, I think that can guide us right through, all of our days and weeks and months here together. Complete the MedBot app every morning. When you wake up, it can be before or it could be after you brush your teeth, but completing the MedBot health app is something that is going to be critical, important, and you cannot pass go and collect $200 until you show us the green go on your phone. So we will be sending out a link to this app. Dr. Cervantes will have that out. It will have instructions on downloading it. I can imagine that not one of our students will have any problem with this. Our adults, maybe not so much, but we will have the instructions to do that. And this is something you'll be prompted every morning to go through and answer questions. And we'll get to a little bit more of the detail of that a little later. Wear your masks. We only want to see your eyes. That's all we want to see for the time being. So wear your masks, wash your hands, stay as far apart as possible, and stay home if you're sick. So if we can remember those 5 things, I think we will be in really great shape for this year. As I mentioned, we've been doing a lot of work. We have been working closely with our colleagues and taking great guidance from not only the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, the Wenham Board of Health, have been our guiding and great colleagues in the work that we've been doing. And within each of those groups and organizations, again, they have many professionals who are spending all of their time working on how to keep our students safe in return to school. I will, in many of these slides, kind of just give a brief overview. I know that you can't go through a day without hearing information about different models of education, different protocols, different guidance from a great variety of folks. So I don't want to at all think that people are not familiar with this, but obviously we looked at, and we are prepared to work in any of the 3 educational models that we need to. And that would be a full in-person, a hybrid model, where we would have cohorts here, and we've decided on an every other week basis is the way our hybrid would work. And third, a full distance model, which many of at least our returning students have experienced with us. And one, I again thank our faculty and of how quickly and how effectively and how supportive they were through that in the spring. So what we have done is gone through in each of these models, and we have built a schedule around each one of those. have addressed the things that are the co-curricular and programming outside of the academic program, so that if at any particular time we need to move among or between any of these, we are ready to do so. The specific schedules and things are ones that we'll go over with the students, obviously, as we go along. The hybrid model, again, this is the model in which we've chosen to open our school. We will have 50% cohorts here, 2 grades at a time to start. The biggest part of that is really to give an opportunity for not only the students, but faculty and staff and everyone else who's going to in this building to figure out how this is going to work in actuality. So sometimes on paper, things work in a certain way. We want to make sure we have kind of stress testing this so that we can figure out where are those things that we might need to make some adjustments. So this would give us an opportunity. As many of you are aware, our facility is enormous. We have 50 acres of land, 120,000 square feet of built environment. Currently, we are using about 80,000 square feet of our space. During this summer, we have added 7 new classrooms, including 2 engineering / kind of physics laboratories. So again, we have increased the amount of space so that we can spread out our classes and have more availability to that. So that is a great opportunity for us here, and not a restriction that we have to deal with. This hybrid schedule, I believe everybody, this was sent to everyone. Certainly it's here, and what we did with our hybrid schedule is we looked at having the amount of seat time that we needed for classes that we felt was appropriate, had that happen in a 5-day rotation rather than in a 10-day rotation, as is traditionally our model for a complete in-person. So you see that on Monday, Thursdays, and Fridays, we meet with all of our classes. On Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we enjoy the luxury of having classes that meet for our longer blocks, or 75-minute blocks. Some of the factors as we were working together in our planning committee that we looked at, again, what were those things that we thought about and had to kind of balance as we came through to come up with our recommendations and our protocols, and they're listed here for you. Please know that all of the things, especially in the 5 top categories, but everyone who comes to Penguin Hall is expected to adhere to all of the guidelines without exception. And if that's not something that they're able to do, and in this particular case, the comment is here, if that's not something they're able to do, then we're going to recommend that, that Zoom be used as an alternative for the learning. I think we've probably had enough lessons on masks, but it never hurts to have the little graphic about how not to wear your mask. As I mentioned in the beginning, I am only interested right now in seeing people's eyes, and as long as that's the case, then we're all set. And so these other 5 ones are not applicable. Again, just some further guidance for your reading enjoyment on some specifics around the masks and our expectations around proper use and care of them. Students will be asked to bring their own mask. They are encouraged to bring a second backup mask. And if there's an issue, we do have emergency ones available for them. I mentioned our cohort model. Our pairings for the start of school will be the 9th and 11th grade students will be in our cohort pairing number 1. That will start on the 14th of September. So our 9th and 11th graders will be here on campus. Our 10th and 12th graders will do their remote learning in a synchronous manner. So they will be fully participating in those classes at the same time as their 9th and 11th grade peers, just on a remote basis. And the following week, on the 21st of September, we will switch and flip those 2 cohorts. It is worth just to mention that For the first week of school, which is the Tuesday after Labor Day, September 8th, through that Friday, we will invite all of our students to campus. We will be spending, weather permitting, but essentially all of our time outside and in smaller groups. But we felt that it was very important for everyone to have the opportunity to come together as a community. And because we do enjoy the luxury of space, we're able to do that, and we're able to do that safely. So, sorry, Dean. Another refresher on hand washing. I'm sure that you've had plenty of lessons on this. These are posted in all of the bathrooms in case anyone should forget. Our health status reporting. This is our MedBot app. Each morning, as I mentioned, students will be asked to complete this app. It will result in a go page for them. That go page will need to be shown to either the driver of the vans before they're able to get on the van, or if they're coming into school, they will need to show that to whoever is greeting them at the door. That's both at the covered walkway or at the spider door, but at any entrance point, they will need to show that go app. Some of the questions that the students will see on that, again, asking about any kind of experiencing any symptoms that might be related to COVID. In the last 14 days, have they been in contact with anyone? And have they taken any medication? Students, oh, no, we're good. We're good, Dean. Thank you. On a daily basis, we have hired additional custodial help, and we are grateful for the people that we do have. Again, I mentioned we have 80,000 square feet, which is a tremendous amount of space for us to cover. We will have supplies in all of the classrooms, the common areas, and the bistros for wiping down surfaces on a regular basis before and after classes. And again, when using the common spaces, we will ask that everybody be part of that process of keeping us clean. The next several slides are really talking about what are those protocols? What if someone does test positive? What if you've been around somebody who may be positive? Or if you're feeling sick and you yourself have symptoms of or have tested positive? So there's a flow chart in this presentation that kind of takes you through the red, orange, yellow, and green. To help you kind of sort out what kind of decision making you should make. If you've been with someone and are or living with someone perhaps who has tested positive and or is presumed positive, we ask that you immediately self-quarantine. And in every one of these, in these cases, always contact primary care or other health professionals. This is not a time for self-diagnosis, and I think we are looking to the healthcare professionals to really help diagnose and provide guidance. Similarly, if you've been around someone who has been positive, perhaps it is your aunt or your grandmother or some other person that you've spent a great deal of time with, perhaps don't live with, but they have then tested positive. Again, we ask that you self-quarantine and contact your primary care physician. If you've been in contact with someone who might have been exposed, this is a really good time to make sure you're self-monitoring, you're hyper-vigilant about that. Practice, as you always should be, social distancing. And again, call your physician and ask for their advice. And the green is, you may know someone and have heard someone. These are the protocols and the practice that we should all be doing, which is always stay at home as much as you can. Limiting your exposure in other types of communities is always important. Please do not get physical with people, social distancing. If there is a case that is reported to the school that someone has been here and has tested positive, then our protocol is to immediately move to a distance learning model, so that we make sure we address the academic issues. We will then perform a deep cleaning of the entire building and perform simultaneously a contact trace analysis for exposure. That will be done in conjunction with the Board of Health. And we will also make sure we are notifying, as good contact tracing protocols require, letting folks know that they may have been in contact with someone so that they can refer and contact their health professionals. So if you are symptomatic for some reason at home, please stay home, contact physician. If you're at school and you have suddenly start feeling the onset of any of these symptoms, then immediately let an adult know. They will direct you to an isolation area, isolation room. We have those available on campus. And at that time, we will contact parent or guardian to pick you up. If on the van, you were fine getting on and then started experiencing some symptoms, the van driver will immediately call ahead to let the transportation coordinator know, and that student will then be directed to an isolation room to be sent home. Isolation spaces are available throughout the day. We have several of them available. We are hoping we have to use them very infrequently. Again, students, if you are feeling any symptoms or illnesses, will be directed there. Parents and guardians will be contacted to pick them up. It is not our protocol, nor is our process to act as a physician, so we will not be diagnosing any of this, and you will be required to provide physicians' notes or other information before you can return to campus for the students. Our teaching faculty and administration, again, self-monitoring their own symptoms, and we ask that if they feel unwell during the day, that they leave the building, and if in the morning, obviously not to come in. We are making arrangements and continue to have a stable of substitute teachers should that be necessary. The immediate response is that our faculty who are here will cover the day, but then we have other faculty available for substitute teaching, whether that be shorter or longer term substitutions. And all faculty members have done a fantastic job of making sure that all of their plans are ready in advance so that, again, we can continue the academic process. Social distancing and requirements and room capacities. We are following the guidance of the DESE, which is requiring a minimum distance of 3 feet at all times. In any cases where we can be more than that, we are. And we, again, as much social distancing within our environment as possible is what we are doing. People should stay to the right. We have marked stairwells as up or down, again, to reduce the crowding in stairwells and to allow for more social distancing. Faculty hide spaces have been spread out, and doors, and just a reminder that all doors and common spaces need to remain open. And I'm very excited to say that all of our windows in our building are all operable, and which has been very exciting, because some of these were not meant to be operable windows, and yet they are. So we're very excited that is, again, a luxury that we enjoy here. Nicole, maybe you could take us through some of the athletic program and some of the health and safety protocols for that.
On Monday, we have a lot of students who are practicing with us right now. For any drills and skills that don't require a whole lot of movement, students are separated far enough away that they can have a mask break in the heat and the sun. We all need some of those breaks to be able to kind of just be comfortable. And then during any scrimmages or gameplay, that's all been modified so that there's no contact or intentional contact. But during those different times the mask will be worn so that students can play a little bit more freely, even if the rules of the game have kind of changed. The MIAA and DESE provided a joint statement. This was a graphic we put together kind of highlighting all of the different parts and pieces, which sports are lower risk, moderate risk to high risk, and which of the 4 different areas in which they can practice and compete. Like I said, during skills and drills, each of the students can kind of have a mask break. During gameplay, we have all the students wear a mask. In the weight room, in the fitness center, we're having a max of 6 participants in that space. Whenever possible, the coach is instructed to move the students outdoors so that they can be in a fully outdoor and open space.
Sorry, there we are. For our bistro, we are still serving lunch as we have been in the past, and I know that this has been an important part of our community, not only for sustenance, but also for enjoying community. For us, it will look different, and we will obviously not be gathering the same numbers that we have been. So, Dean, if you could advance that slide. Thank you. In general, students will be participating in lunch at grade levels. We have allocated 30 minutes for lunch for each of those lunch times. The students need to spend those 30 minutes in the bistro, and then we'll have 30 minutes to spend elsewhere. But they cannot come and go during that time, so we're trying to keep together those cohorts. We have plexiglass shields installed on every table and in front of the servery, so that there is a barrier and shield between people at the table. There's a maximum of 2 individuals at a table. At the servery, all meals will be served, including the health bar. So we have 4 individuals who will be serving all of our lunch to everyone. There will be posted signs and directional on placards and distancing. Masks are required at any time that you are not actively consuming food. Outdoor seating is available, and all are encouraged to do that if they choose. As I mentioned, all food will be plated. We are going to ask that through one of our other apps, not our MedBot app, but another app that we are launching, which will help to provide more information and contact with both families and students, that we will post the lunch menu for the following week at the end of the week, and we will ask students to kind of pre-select their meals. This is a way that we can better manage and monitor to make sure that we have sufficient amounts of food for students. Given our new serving approach, it does not give our chefs an opportunity to be preparing any more should a particular dish be very popular and tend to run low. They've been able to prepare additional food because they will be serving. That is not something they will be able to do. So we want to make sure that the students, first of all, have an opportunity to see what's coming, because it will help directionally as we get into some of the specifics of this bistro, but then also making sure that we have sufficient for everyone who's interested. There will be no drinks served in the bistro. All students, as always, need to be bringing their own reusable water bottles. They should fill those. If they want to have a drink during the day, they should fill those obviously throughout the day and before lunch. There are no and never have been any reusable containers within the school. So again, we highly recommend that you make sure that you bring your reusable water bottles for the day. Rookery in the bistro has been reduced significantly, and we are asking that individuals use the sanitary wipes that are available just to wipe down their table and chairs prior to leaving. Transportation protocols. For transportation, we've obviously reduced the number of students on each, potential number of students on each van. We will have additional vans available to accommodate the number of students who are wanting to take advantage of the transportation. Students are required to wear masks at all times during the duration. There is no option for a mask break during that time. They will fill the vans from the back to the front so that we limit the amount of crossover that is happening among the students. Absolutely no food or drink on the vans at any time will be allowed. So, similar to our classrooms, the vans will be cleaned before and after departing the school. Van windows will be left open. The internal or external air will be brought in at consistently during the trips. We talked about the students. If you are feeling ill en route, then we will immediately get you into an isolation room and send you home. Similar, van drivers, if they become symptomatic, we'll go home and we will make sure that, again, they're in isolation and in the same protocols. Dean, did you want to talk about admissions at all?
Sure. I'm always excited to talk about admissions, Molly. Anytime I can talk about admissions, I'm excited. So this year we will be exploring different ways to bring people on campus safely for admissions events and for virtual events. We anticipate that we won't have students coming in during the school day, but after school, once the day is over by 3, we'll be having families come in for socially distant tours and opportunities to see the school. So if you have friends and family that are interested in coming and learning, they can absolutely do the shadow day virtually, but and then they can do a in-person socially distant tour. So we're just limiting the amount of people on campus throughout the course of the year. I will also use this as a moment to plug that we are still accepting, we've reopened our application process for folks who are still interested in applying to APH, and we've seen a big push in families that don't want to be, that they're looking for the type of learning and in-person experience that we're offering. So we're excited that that's happening. And so if you have any family or friends that are interested, please feel free to have them give us a call. We're doing socially distant tours and an accelerated application process.
Thank you. Consistent with the governor's orders regarding travel and vacation reporting, we do ask that, that you let us know that that is happening and follow the governor's guidelines regarding quarantining, especially from states that are of high risk. There's more information available, and Nicole Cervantes is something to provide, again, additional information regarding that. But quarantining and producing negative COVID tests will be required as part of that. And then just some of the sources and guidelines and that we have used as we've gone through, and again, this is, as you can imagine, continues to be an evolving and moving process. So we've kept up with it, and these are some of the sources and guidelines that we've been using. So I think at this point, Dean, maybe you want to see what kind of questions we have coming in, and we are all here to answer them.
Great. This first question, Molly, comes to you from a student wondering if they'll be able to hang out on campus before and after school.
Yes, that is a possibility. Again, the important things, if we go back to our 5 top things, is you will have your masks on, you will be socially distant, and we will have spaces available and designate certain spaces in the building where you are able to do that.
Great. This question is for Nicole, Dr. Cervantes. A couple questions about the MedBot app screening. Who is monitoring that app?
I am.
Oh, you're so lucky. And so, what are the directions for the app to be sent out? What's the plan for that in the next few days?
So I have the app. It is a brand new app, as you know, MedBot wasn't really something we needed a few months ago. So we went through a onboarding process days ago, have everything set up. We're just working on a few little tweaks to the system. And then you will be getting an email with the step-by-step instructions on how to download it to your phone, how to log in. And the app is really, really user-friendly, and you will all have no problem answering and getting those green lights to get on the door, enter the building.
Great, thank you. Molly, there's a question about what is the barbecue going to look like, sort of the back to school? And I know that that's still up in the air, but do you have any insight on what that's going to maybe be like?
It's going to be lonely because it's not going to be happening here altogether. So we did kind of reserve the date. When we had picked that date, it was before some of the governor's proclamation of reducing the number of individuals gathering who were, again, for social gatherings. So although we had some great plans for socially distant and to address it, again, it does not look at this point that we're going to be able to do that. We are thinking very hard and long but how else we can kind of come together in community. But as of right now, I don't have any further details. And unless something changes dramatically, it does not appear that we will be having that barbecue.
Okay. There were a couple of questions about transportation. I think, Molly, you and I can answer these. One of them is unsure if what you described on the vans is decreased capacity on the APH vans. I think the answer is yes, that will be decreased capacity. However, we're looking to rent some more vans. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Great. And let's see. And then we will be emailing, we'll be sending up, excuse me, a reminder email tomorrow for folks that have, just to make sure everyone who's interested in vans have filled out the form. And that detail should be coming out to everybody next week by the beginning of the week, sort of what the route is and where it will be, and so that you're on it. So we're trying to accommodate everyone as part of.
So maybe I'll just add to that. There may be some confusion, or just as a clarification, of several weeks ago, maybe 3 or so weeks ago, we sent out a survey request for information if people were interested in the van and where they might be interested in riding that van from. We then last week sent out, and based on that information, we were able to do a preliminary route for the different areas with those stops. At this point, and what went out, I believe it, Dean, was it last Friday? Another email went out, or like last week, asking you actually to register. So the first email that went out was not committal. This one is. We really need to know now if you are going to be on transportation, what stop you will be at for pickup. And then if you haven't already, you would need to deal with the issues of payment around that, either adding that to your payment plan or making payment arrangements. So I ask that if you have not already done that, to go back to that survey and fill that out, please, to register. If you can't find that registration email, you will see another one tomorrow reminding folks. So we really are trying to nail down these routes and know the number of people, because that obviously makes a difference in the number of vans that we're renting and how we're doing those routes. So thank you very much for doing that and letting us know.
Thanks. A bunch of questions for you, Jan. First one, can you tell me a little bit about what's going to happen with mask breaks during the school day? What will that look like?
Yes. So a couple of things to keep in mind: that we will, in addition to using indoor classroom spaces, be using outdoor teaching spaces as well, which will allow us the capacity to move students further apart so that they can take a mask break before class starts. We are adopting the protocol that we're wearing the masks as much as possible. We will also, Molly talked before about some of the stairwells being designated up and down. They are also nearby outer doors, so it is entirely possible for a student to leave a class, go down a stairwell, go outside and come back in another stairwell or door, so that's possible. Teachers are mindful. We all have to wear the mask too, so you can bet that we will be working on mask breaks. We've been wearing them all day, sitting in 3-hour-long meetings and texting each other, calling time on the meeting so that we can go out and take a break.
Great. And there was a question about water and masks and breaks, and could you answer that as well?
So in the classroom, students are required to have their masks on, but just if you need to take a sip of water, the protocol will be that you step outside of the classroom to lift your mask, take a drink, and go back in. It's a nice stretch break too, but that will be the protocol that we'll employ there.
Great. And as far as morning meeting, I know there was a question about, what will morning meeting be like in some assemblies?
Yes. So the student-led committee is still working on the logistics of morning meeting. Again, just as we will at convocation and activities, that first week of school will be utilizing the outdoor space as much as possible. As you might imagine, even with half of our student body on campus, we're not going to be gathering in the WOW room as one body. In inclement weather, we will be able to zoom in from locations in the building where students are socially distant and zooming in. So we're still sort of working through some of the logistics of that, but they will happen. That was something we really missed last spring when we were in distance learning.
And since I have you, Jan, there was a question about homework and protocols. So last question came in from a student last semester. APH adapted to student response that the homework load after doing classes was overwhelming. What's the new protocol for homework this semester?
Yes, so please know your teachers have been paying attention to that, particularly in this sort of 1-week class rotation, because I'm sure you all have picked up on the fact that you have 3 days where all of your classes meet. So we talked at length about that yesterday, expect your teachers to be asking you about your homework load as they plan due dates. Many of them are thinking that if you have class on Monday and you meet that class again the next day, that the homework wouldn't be due till the next time you meet. So sort of still trying to adhere to the 2 days, 2 nights to allow for homework. You'll have your advisors, you have your teachers. We just need to keep talking about what that load feels like. These first few weeks, we're all going to be adjusting. And so that's where the communication piece of this is really key. So know that we are listening.
Thank you. Molly, there's a couple of questions. One, Leslie, I appreciate Leslie Kirstner, who's an MD's on, and I know she asked a question, and she was also saying that she uses those types of MedBot apps on a regular basis, and it's easy and it's like a routine. So thanks, Leslie. You did have another question too about how long school will be closed after each positive case, and Molly, do you mind just reviewing that? And, if that will happen, if there are longer, if there are several positive cases, what that sort of might be looking like.
So if there's a positive case or cases that we're made aware of, as I mentioned, the school will immediately go to a distance learning model, a synchronous model. We have the schedule for that. We will be closed and do distance. We will not be closed. I take that back, all you students who are listening. It's not a snow day. We will be in a distance learning model until we can thoroughly clean the building and do the appropriate contact tracing. So our guess, not having had to go through it, is probably, I don't know, 1 to 3 days that would take. So I think it will, there's some things that will impact that, but again, we will stay in that distance learning model until we believe that and feel that it is safe, based on our work with the Board of Health and others, to be able to come back.
Okay, great. Nicole, there was a question about the type of masks. Do you mind answering that question for us?
Not at all. So the type of mask that we're requiring to be used is a 2-ply mask. So gaiters are not the fake turtleneck things that we pull up over our face. They're not going to be allowed in this situation. We're also looking for masks that just cover the face, not a bandana or a scarf at this time.
Great, thank you. I think we have a couple of questions, just some clarifying. Jan, do you mind going over, I know Molly had mentioned it, but going over the schedule, orientation, the dates, and then when the start of school and the cohorts?
Need to unmute, Jan.
Orientation for new students is next Wednesday and Thursday. And then all students return to school on Tuesday, September 8th for convocation. And the 9th grade will be in a retreat that day. And the 10th, 11th, and 12th graders will be doing their first leadership class. On Wednesday will be a day dedicated to the summer reading activities. And Thursday and Friday, there will be grade-specific activities that allow for students to get to know each other and to get bonded before we rotate into the hybrid schedule. We have new students at every grade level this year. We are working as a faculty tomorrow to plan the specifics of those days and also talking as a team about the hours of those days. Because the majority of those activities, weather permitting, are going to be outdoors.
Great, thanks. Jan, since you're here, another question about should first years be bringing their school supplies with them at orientation, or should they wait until their first week on campus?
Wait until your first week on campus for that, please. Yeah.
Great, great. Nicole, do you mind, there's a question about the leadership curriculum and being on the schedule. Can you tell everybody who may not know about it, but what's happening and how exciting that is?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking this question. The leadership curriculum is brand new to APH this year. Students will be meeting in small groups of their grade levels each week to go over leadership development, so character development, looking at different parts of who we are, who we want to be, and kind of creating a roadmap for how to get there over your time at APH. This will also bring in a series of really wonderful and talented females who are known for their leadership qualities as guest speakers to our school. And I'm really excited to be working on this project and be sharing this with all of the girls. I think it's going to be really, really powerful and exciting for all of them. The
Great.
conferences is different. That is meant as a space for students to meet with teachers and advisors, like a designated time outside of the advisory time.
Great. Thank you. Molly, there's a couple questions about being tested for COVID. Do students have to be tested before they come back to school?
They do not. So they will have to do the MedBot beginning in order to come back to school if they're having any symptoms. The only time in which we would require that is if they've been traveling and have not quarantined for at least 14 days prior to that.
Great, thank you. Nicole, a couple more questions for you. One about how are after-school clubs going to work?
So clubs are going to still be a huge part of what we do, that we find that they're very important for the students to, share in those experiences. In the hybrid model, every student has the ability to create a Zoom and invite other people in. So if you're at home and your club is meeting, there are different ways to include our fellow club members in a conversation through Zoom, whether you're on campus or at home. And just we're working really creatively on how do we do our projects and have our goals met in two different places. That is one of the reasons for the club leadership day on September 1st. So for students who are listening, if you haven't signed up for that, you should definitely sign up so that we can talk through how those clubs and activities are going to work in this situation.
Great. And the other question, there was a athletic question. Are students doing independent fulfillment for athletics? Are the requirements the same for competitions and dance recitals as they happen?
No, we're being very flexible with our independent fulfillment because we know that competitions and performances aren't happening as frequently as they have been in the past. So if you have something that you've been working towards that you would like to continue to pursue, please email me with those questions and we can work through how the independent fulfillment could work for you.
Great. Jan, there are a couple of questions about if students are self-quarantining or waiting for a test, can they still do classes online and continue even if she should be in person that week?
Yes. So all classes are being taught, in person and synchronously online at the same time. So for any reason, a student has to be away from school because they're quarantining, they weren't quite feeling well that day, but they still feel up to attending classes. They may absolutely attend their classes virtually. They'll have the Zoom link. They'll just Zoom in as if it were their virtual week. The other thing to know for families is there is an option for full distance learning for any student who wants to participate in that. We will send that question out to families after this town hall in the next couple of days. And please know that there is no penalty for making that choice and that your advisor will be, as always, your point person. So if you have any questions or difficulties as you're participating in distance learning, they continue to be obviously your point person.
Great, thank you. The other question that I just wanted to ask Molly, I know that, or actually first Jan and then Molly, can you speak to the plans? I know that there's some theater department questions, like how we might be exploring theater. I know that that's being developed, Jan, but maybe you can give us some guidance.
Yeah, Mr. Crowley and Miss T are both working on the performance aspects of both music and theater at the school, much in the way that they did in the spring. They are very creative thinkers. And so we do plan to the best of our ability to put on both a theater production this fall as well as the traditional winter concert. They're working out the details. So what I would advise is that get in touch with them so that they know who you are, that you're interested in participating in those after school things. Certainly if you're interested in participating in music, the classes actually happen in the schedule. So you have that opportunity as well. But they, even in selecting pieces, both music and productions, are thinking about the fact that we're in a hybrid model. So more details to come, but yes, we are planning to bring you APH in its full glory, even in the hybrid model. So.
Great, thank you. Molly, there are a couple of questions about lockers and what's the plan for lockers?
So students will have access to lockers. This year we feel that it is important, especially given the fact that we will be starting in the hybrid, so students will be needing to bring books and things back and forth. One of the casualties of this virus is that we will not be able to put the students together in their grade levels. I know our seniors have become particularly attached to their treehouse and their congregating spaces, and unfortunately that is not going to be an option. We are assigning lockers this year that are alternating classes. So one of the things that it does is it kind of breaks up those classes moving together in packs or even a couple together. So the students, as we come back, we'll see where their lockers are. And just as we go back to those 5 top protocols, the social distancing. So if someone is in a locker that is next to yours, you will need to stand back and you will need to wait. We will not have them on top of each other, next to each other, and we have tried to spread them out across different grades so that that helps to kind of thin out the students.
Great. And one of the other questions that came in is, is there the possibility of full in-person learning if the incidents remain low and there's not a second surge?
Yes, and for those watching those two reasons, and then also, and probably most importantly, our school, in terms of the amount of space that we have, we have that luxury. We have a lot of outdoor space. We have a lot of indoor space, so we can distance quite well. What part of our reasoning for starting in the hybrid model was really for people to become acclimated with these new policies and this kind of normal that we're going to be in for a period of time, which is important. So really, compliance with the protocols, that is what, that along with reduced, not having outbreaks and watching what's happening in a second surge. But that's really the thing that's going to allow us to come back together fully as a community. So I encourage, and I go back to this respect for one another, and say to the students that we have to be thinking about that, and we can do this. And we just wanted to give some time and space for folks to get used to it.
Great. And then there's been a couple of questions about the travel policy, like if someone goes to another state over the weekend, can their daughter come back to school, or do they need to be quarantined, or do we have an answer for that yet?
I mean, I think in general, the movement, because New England states especially are so small and we have many of our students from, say, New Hampshire and out of state. So those students are not ones who where this is applying to. But if, for example, you're going on vacation and you went to Florida or Georgia or Texas, or again, watching the governor's guidance on, movement in and out of states that have very high rates of positive cases. So, I don't see the issue of, again, moving just within the New England states.
So they would not have to quarantine. Okay, great. There are a couple of questions about details around the dates of convocation and other dates. We will be sending out, there is a calendar on my APH, but we will make sure something goes out with all of those dates so we can alleviate any of that confusion that folks might have. I know that there's a lot that we're getting to be on 8 o'clock, and I appreciate everybody's time and thoughtful questions. We will get to, we will try to get back to you if we weren't able to answer your question today. We'll also send this out, the PowerPoint out to everyone, so they'll have the list of protocols and can review it a little more thoroughly. And we are all available to answer any questions. We ask a lot of questions ourselves, but we're available to answer any questions that you might have. There has been a question about the total student count. We're headed towards, we're just breaking 140 total, and we look like we may be getting even more. So there's been some wonderful growth for the school this year. So we continue to see families being interested, and I actually just got a text from another family that's really interested in coming in. So the more that you can help spread the word, we appreciate it.
Dean, I'm just I think I know you've got, we have a number of questions here. I would just, in general, the ones that I'm seeing that have to do with some logistics around kind of opening of school, you'll be getting lots of information on that. Advisors, convocation, lists of students, new students, what's happening for leadership, orientation, all of that, you'll be receiving more information. So know that that's all coming. The one question I did see on here, there was a question about flu shots. Yes, all students will be required to get flu shots. That is a mandate in the state, and that is something that, again, is very prudent for us to comply with. I see it. I wonder if it's from a student, but is the cell phone policy the same? Yes, it is. As is dress code. So I'll just put that one out there too. And again, not wanting to skip over a lot. Transportation, there was a question about the times of that are going to be the same. So coming in the morning by school and then leaving at 5 o'clock will be happening. Transportation is not, does not happen during orientation. It won't start until the 8th of September, just to let folks know. There was a question about bringing lunch. If that is something that is you're more comfortable with that, absolutely, students can bring lunch. We don't have regular availability to a lot of refrigeration or any kind of heating ability. So I think just keep that in mind as you're thinking about what, if you wanted to do that, what you might want to bring. So, but certainly if that is your preference, that is perfectly fine.
And then the cleaning of the rooms, Molly, what's the process around the cleaning of the rooms? That was just one other question.
Yeah, so the cleaning of the rooms, you know, again, we have 2 full-time custodial folks who will be doing a lot of the common space on the regular basis, bathrooms, regularly, again, common spaces and all of that. We are asking that our faculty are assigned to a particular room. So that is kind of that's their charge, and both students and faculty will be asked to, you know, wipe down tables. All of the supplies will be there as necessary. Hand sanitizer in all of the classrooms, again, as well as in the common spaces. Whoops.
That's Ruby. She's telling us it's time to end. So we want to thank everybody for joining us today. We're so happy to see your names, and we've tried to answer as many questions as we could. We'll continue to answer them with you over time. But again, feel free to email us with any questions that you might have. We will send this out to you.
If I could just maybe just add one more, especially for the students, please know that we will spend a significant amount of time with you to review these protocols. We know that some of this may be new, certainly how you move around the building may be new. And it's, you know, we understand that it will take some time. We also know that you're very smart and you're very much wanting to be back together and to work within this. So know that some of those kind of specific questions around things, we're going to go through all of that with advisors and with your teachers and things. So it'll all become very clear. I do want to, I want to make sure that in case this has felt like a whole lot of wagging a finger, I'm trying to figure out how not to make that happen. It's a lot of rules, and I know that's hard. But again, our intention is really to try and have some protocols and approach to keep everybody healthy and safe, so that we can all be back together, because that is our greatest hope and what we want so much. So please, hopefully you can hear that in the spirit in which it is given. And that's all I have to say.
Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful night. We appreciate you spending some time with us. And we look forward to seeing your daughters and some of you in person very soon.
Thank you.